Hi, today I'm going to talk about things that work and things that don't work. Well, at least it's my opinion. You tell me what you think, but some things work really good and some things, well, it's deceiving. Do they work or not? So there is the other tomato plant. What I did, and you can call this a hack or an experiment, is I planted two tomato plants in different ways. Two tomato plants I bought that were exactly the same type, same place. These are Sweet 100 tomatoes, and it's a type of cherry tomato. I planted the one like people do in the bag, and I'll show you here exactly how I did it. What I did was I made a hole for the tomato plant, and I made sure the soil would reach the roots. If they don't reach the roots, the plant will die. It's that simple. And then I trimmed the pot down. I left just the rim to make sure that when I water the plant, it will definitely get the water to it because it's in a bag after all. I also made drain holes underneath so it would not get boggy, because if it does, it's not going to work. And then I put a stake in there and I wrapped the stake up really good without damaging the plant at all. Well, to me, the plant didn't do that well. Look at this plant. This plant here is in a box, which it could have been a tote or a bucket. It has branches on the bottom, leaves, paper towel rolls, some kitchen scraps, whatever I could find, and then topped with potting soil. That's basically soil like Mother Nature. That brings earthworms and everything, and the plants just thrive really good. When you're growing straight out of a bag of potting soil that, yes, is fortified with plant food to make the plant grow, the thing is there's going to be no earthworms and not much of any microbes, if any. So the plant will have to depend on what's in the bag. On top of that, there's not a whole lot of oxygen flow. And plants still need oxygen. I mean, think about it. The ground may be covered, but the roots can still get some oxygen. So there's a lot of things that, to me, I don't think it's going to work that well. Now, I watched a lot of different people do it. I watched them plant it. It looked beautiful. But what I haven't seen are the end results, or at least an experiment to try putting something in a tote or a cardboard box, whatever way they want to plant it, and then directly in soil. This particular tomato plant seems like it's almost burning. It's not happy there. And yes, the one in the plastic bag is throwing tomatoes, and the one in the cardboard box isn't. But there's a reason for that. The one in the plastic bag, the potting soil bag, basically thinks it's dying. It knows it can't live and continue to grow and thrive, let's say for a year, like most tomato plants can. So it's quickly trying to put fruit out because it knows it's not going to make it. And by nature, it wants to put fruit out, which in turn will give it seeds, and then that next generation can make it. That's what a lot of plants do. The tomato plant, of course, that's growing in the container knows it can get big and flourish through the seasons, and it's got so many nutrients in there, and the earthworms will be coming to it because of the leaves and different matter in there, that it's taking its time and putting a lot of growth into it. That to me is more important. I would have loved to have seen some of these, what they look like later, 3 months down the line, but you don't really find too much. Now, there's nothing wrong with it if that's going to work for you and you don't have a lot of space and you just want to cut open the bag and plant in it. But to me, that's a lot of money for potting soil when you can spread it out. Even if you don't have anything, you can take a container and load a tote, a flower pot, 5-gallon bucket, or even those dish pans I use now that are 18 quarts, which is 4.5 gallons. You can load the whole bottom with shredded paper. You take your bills, you shred them, put it on the bottom, mix a few leaves in there, and then top it with potting soil. That, to me, is much better when it comes to soil because it's bringing in microbes, and you can toss in some earthworms if they don't find their way in there, and you will have a much more richer soil that's actually doing something. In other words, the soil's alive. So this is just what happened with my bag. I wanted to make sure I finished this up and did some sort of video for you because you have seen it on the deck. And I know some of you are going to ask, why isn't it there? Because I will be taking it apart. Because I'm going to use that bag. And that bag can plant multiple plants, a lot of different plants. I can take 1 cubic foot bag of potting soil and spread that on 10 totes, 10 buckets. and I can get a lot more for my money. And not only that, the plants grow so much better. So think about it, which way is going to work for you. The most important thing is I want you to grow, and if this works for you, then go ahead and do it. But if it doesn't, I've tried it, and for me, I think I'd rather grow in some sort of container. And the boxes, yes, I know, I'm trying. This year it was an experiment to make a garden out of cardboard boxes, and so far, so great. And I know the cardboard will break down, but that's okay because that cardboard is going to create soil for me to use next spring or even sooner. But right now the plants are doing really good and everything is going good with it. So think about it. And yes, it's a hack that you can just grow straight in the bag and you have no work. But let me tell you something. I've done it once before. The bags eventually crack and split and crumble to pieces as they start to dry out. So you decide what you want to do. You can get a tote at many stores for between $5 and $7. You can get a bucket, a 5-gallon bucket. They're as cheap as $4. And if you know a bakery, you can go to a bakery and get them for free. Or you can get those dish pans that I'm now using, and I love them. I'm growing so much in them. They're 4.5 gallons, and they're under $3. There are so many ways for you to grow. And of course, if you don't have a patio or deck and you have a garden, you can grow in a cardboard box, because I wouldn't put that on a patio or deck because that is going to break down. But that is perfect if you have a garden that you can just toss them on the ground somewhere, plant them up, and take care of them. So do what works for you. On a deck, I would use buckets, I would use totes, whatever works for you, and just think about it. You want to grow a lot of good food for as least amount as possible, and why not do it like Mother Nature? Doesn't cost her anything. The plants grow, they drop their leaves, they produce their own plant food and fertilizer and their own soil. And you know what? She's not putting any money out. All she's using is rain and weather, and at least we can turn on our hose and water a little bit and help Mother Nature out a little bit in our own garden as we're planting our own plants. So we're fortunate on that. She's got a harder job than us, so we can do it a little easier. So I hope I gave you an idea and some thoughts, or at least answered some questions. Will it work? It'll work, but the plants are not going to have the long life. You're not going to get tons of tomatoes on it. It's going to quickly do what it has to do, produce its seeds, and then go on with its, well, turning in the soil. So with that, have a wonderful, wonderful day. I am going to dismantle it. You won't see it on the deck anymore. And don't forget to eat what you grow. Bye-bye.